If you're easily distracted by shiny objects, and by shiny objects, I'm talking about content that you see on social media or someone that's going to promise you the world and they're going to triple your results if you buy their program today and follow this guru because they look like they're successful, so I should be doing what they're doing. Peter Boolkah, business coach from the UK, has got some great messages for us today. Peter Boolkah, why business coaching for you?
Do you want the honest answer?
I want the honest answer.
You know what? I never looked to
the
become.
truth, I'm guessing we're going to get today.
You know what? I never ever looked to become a business coach. I was always a corporate person. I was in between corporate careers actually. Had kind of accepted another gig, and then at the time was Action International, now known as Actioncoach, approached me and said, "Oh, would you be interested?" And to be honest with you, I was a little bit bored, so I said, "Okay, let me go and see what this was all about." Thought, okay, the concept was quite good. So I went into due diligence, did all the due diligence sort of meetings that you normally would do, and I wasn't going to do it. The thought of being a standalone coach just didn't really sort of appeal to me, and it didn't seem to be a big enough game. And then my final due diligence call, I met a guy called Ray Moore, and he had just started up a firm back then, which was pretty unique. I actually loved his vision, what he was going to do. Ended up turning down the job, signing up with Actioncoach, and we had a 15-year partnership together. And 20 years in, here I am, still going strong.
And so you've spent a lot of time working with businesses over those 20 years. What do you find is kind of the key to, let's say, the common challenge that most business owners have?
The common challenge is typically them. Everyone hits a brick ceiling. When you go into business, everyone's so enthusiastic and they work really hard, but you'll only get as far as your knowledge allows you to get. And everyone becomes stuck at some level. And I think it's that brick wall. And there has to be a degree of pain as well. You have to be coming fairly peed off with that brick wall to take some action. And it's when someone's prepared to take some action because they no longer want to be stuck. I mean, typically you'll have business owners that fall into two categories. Those who are stuck and want to grow, and those who are stuck that want to be saved. Clearly the latter is probably a rescue mission that most of the time does fail.
Okay, so the first one, what are the kind of steps in terms of, what's the first question that you ask them?
You know what? The first question I typically will do an alignment session, but the first thing I want to know is why do they want to put themselves through this pain day in, day out? Why wake up and torture yourself day in, day out? Because by the time you get to that point, most people have fallen out of love with their business. So actually, why would you continue doing the stuff that you hate doing? For what reason? And unless you sort of connect with that the reason you started your business in the first place and what you wanted it to achieve, then you're just going through the motions.
And are they at a particular level, of success?
No, it varies. It varies. Everyone gets stuck at some point. I suppose it just depends on where they are. I mean, the bigger the business, probably the easier it is to help them because they have more resources at their disposal. So actually the whole scaling up process becomes a lot quicker. The smaller the business, the more time it will take.
So what do you find is sort of the key to success in breaking through a limiting belief or challenge that they have?
I think more importantly, it's going to be the mindset of the person you're working with, the attitude of the person you're working with. Are they a person that are willing to learn, but most importantly, willing to change? I think if someone's willing to change, then they become coachable. If someone's stuck, they're like a rock, a totally immovable object, and they fight you all the way, you're never going to go anywhere because they like the romance of change, but they're not prepared to take the steps necessary to change.
So it feels like, today in a world where we have endless information, access to information, we've got books, we've got YouTube videos, we've got even AI now. Why do people still get stuck?
Because it's a really clear demarcation zone between content overload and context. And what most of these people are lacking is context. Look, everyone has an opinion. And the problem is people consume too many sources of content, get confused by one person will say this, one person will say that. Which one do I do? Content. Where's the context bringing it all together?
That's a really good point. Too much content. Yes, that's so true because you listen to a podcast episode or you read a book and you think, I just have to do that and then it will all be okay.
Do you know what it is, Michelle? The problem is they'll do it. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it well. And they would have thought, oh, well, I've done it and it doesn't work. When really, you take the whole Edison approach, you may have to do it 1,000 times before you actually find the formula that works. And most people, version 2 or 3, give up, says that's a crap attitude, go onto TikTok and find some other new shiny star, bright shiny object to go and chase. Everyone's searching for Moby Dick. It doesn't exist.
So what is the right way? Keep going, keep trying.
Do you know what?
and you'll
You've got to
find-
layer it. You've got to layer it. You've got to do it one layer at a time and get that layer right. Move on to the next layer. Get that right. Move on to the next. Don't get it semi-right, screw it up and just keep building, and then watch it crash down. No, take your time. It's not a race.
So that's really profound, actually, because it's so true. It's so easy today to get stuck on the shiny objects and see someone's success story that, the overnight success story and, follow me and I'll, next year profit and do this and do that. It's almost like less content. That's really feels empowering, actually. So, why would someone get a coach? Why would someone come to Peter Boolkah to help them grow?
I think the biggest gift a coach can ever give somebody is that perspective, is that sort of independent third party perspective. They're not in the goldfish bowl. You see, your employees will tell you what you want to hear. Your spouse will probably tell you how shit you are, to be fair. Your friends at the pub have all got an opinion but don't run a business themselves. Actually, when you're speaking to someone, it's very difficult. Who do you speak to? So it's always good to have someone in your camp that's third party, that's operating in your blind spots. Because when you're not in it day in, day out, you get to see it from a totally different perspective. Even better when you're working alongside people that have built multiple businesses and therefore understand what is needed for this particular business to succeed.
What's an example of that you've got for me?
I mean, I've got loads after 20 years, loads of examples. I think one of my favorite ones was from my early clients, a guy called John. And I ended up coaching him. It must have been 12 years. When I first started, it was a typical person, got really pissed off with their previous boss, thought the man was a dickhead, which is fair enough. It does happen, and decided to go and work for themselves. Started off in a garage, a bit like Steve Jobs, grew it, got busier and busier and busier, got to a point, but ended up working 7 days a week. On the weekends, wasn't getting to see the kids, was working on the dining room table, doing all the accounts and everything, getting really stressed. Sometimes they made profit, sometimes he didn't make profit. Very smart guy, just never learned about business. So actually, when you started to give them the whole framework around business, took it on board. Actually, he was one that executed flawlessly. We ended up buying multiple businesses through acquisitions. He ended up scaling up his business and ultimately sold out, which was the whole goal. And he managed to sort of take the money. Since then, he's opened other businesses as well. That for me is a really good story, because when you're in business, it's got to have a purpose. It's got to give you at some point a life back.
Yes, give you a life back. That's kind of a foreign concept to a lot of business owners, I'm sure, that are listening.
Yeah, look, Misha, at the beginning, no one can expect, I'm going to go in business, I'm going to work for myself, and it's going to be all sort of roses, unicorns, rainbows, and all of that. It's not. It's going to be hard work. The only lifestyle business I know in the first couple of years is poverty. If you don't put the work in, you're never going to have the money. Don't believe this crap that you read in the papers or see online. This person with this TikTok video, I'm 2 years in and I'm driving a Lambo. Most of them are renting a Lambo. It doesn't really exist. There are unicorns out there, but they're damn rare.
And it's taken them years to get there.
Yeah, the ones that have made it are the ones that have consistently grown over a period of time. During that period, faced unbelievable hardships, probably come close to bankruptcy a couple of times, and had to have that resilience to break through, keep persevering, no matter what, until eventually they break through.
How do you develop that resilience to keep going when things feel like they're not stacked in your favor?
I think you need to, desperately want the end result badly enough. The goal has got to be strong enough that you'll do whatever it takes. Make sure you surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with people that can A, help you, B, build you up. Because unfortunately, what you're going to find, there's going to be a lot of people that you may know that will just want to shoot you down all the time because you're going on a journey they're not. You need to stay away from those idiots, because all they're going to do is try to drag you back down to their level. So a support network is absolutely critical.
So when times do get tough and it's easy to,
blame, excuse denial, economy, you've lost clients, whatever it might be. What's kind of one thing that you do that sort of helps you kind of stay above the point or above the line?
I always default back to marketing. Whenever you've got an economy that's struggling, I mean, we've got it in the UK right now. Our UK economy at the moment is just trash. They're celebrating 0.1% growth in GDP. I mean, which moron celebrates 0.1 growth? I mean, that's just desperation. And look, money changes. So if you look at COVID, some of the old money disappeared. There is new money. There's new businesses that started up during lockdown. There's new ways of doing things. You just got to be always resilient with your marketing. Never stop marketing, because as money shifts, you want to be visible for the new people so they know about you and your services so that they can engage with you. And one of the best things I did was I doubled down on my marketing actually during COVID. And today, a lot of the people that get to know me is through chat engines like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and all the other new ones coming through. And they only know me because of the fact that I've been consistently marketing for the best part of 4 years. So
That's interesting.
you just got to market your way out of it. A lot of people chop marketing at the beginning. It's suicide. How's anyone going to find you if they can't see you? I've got a sales problem. No, you haven't. You've got a marketing problem.
So the type of marketing that you're talking about is content, a lot of content creation.
Yeah, look, I would say that there's no strategy out there that's a bad strategy. If you look at it, there are people doing really well with networking, really well with sort of telemarketing. I think every marketing strategy has a valid place. The only time that marketing strategy fails is when you have an idiot doing it. It's not the strategy that's the problem. It's the person you've engaged to execute the strategy.
Or they've tested it with 50 people and said it doesn't work.
Exactly, which goes back to the point, the idiot doing it.
So if you think about, I want to ask you a question about marketing. If you think about brands today, we see influencers that kind of just seem to be successful building brands, the behind the scenes that they're being, authentic and kind of showing up. And is that the way that you think, marketing today looks like?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture. I think the challenge you've got now is that people have got access to more information. I think it's really important that whatever you do is that people know, like, and trust you. And I always, that's the one thing I love about marketing stuff. It's the know, like, and trust. And I'll give you a really interesting example. I mean, Elon Musk has done such fantastic stuff. You look, I mean, he's the only person on the planet to build 6 enterprises to go beyond $1 billion. I mean, Steve Jobs only ever managed 3, and he was a genius. But the know, like, and trust, when he crossed the line and became part of the Trump administration, if you look at Tesla as a brand across the world, I think the car's still the car. The technology is still the technology, is still pioneering. But actually, with some of the comments maybe that he's made over the sort of previous period, his likability has gone right down. In many respects, his trust has gone right down. And right now, the share price is going through the toilet. So the one thing I would say, if you want to be online and you want to be in the eye and you want to be clearly visible and you want to be this online brand, be very careful, because as quickly as you can rise, you can fall.
So, you see a lot of people jumping on a camera or their phone and just, walking on the beach, talking about all sorts of content. And, they attract an audience that does know, like, and trust them. And that's how they're it's almost like it's the cheapest, most easiest way to build a brand today if you're willing to show up and just do the content. It's like the Gary Vee strategies. And
you've got to understand the channel. You've got to understand, let's say, the algorithms of the channel, and actually what does the channel want, because you're not marketing to the people. You're actually getting the channel to like you. If the platform likes you, it will promote you. If you upset the platform, it will hide you in the shadows. But what I say to someone is, look, it's all good finding people with content. Brilliant. Why don't you find people with content that's 2 years out, that's 2 years old, and they're still doing the content? Because anyone can show up for 6 months, spout a lot of rubbish, and then disappear. And then what? You want people with a track record. You want people that can show you that consistently over a period of time that actually they are still around, the clients that they service are still around, and they are still relevant.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so, if you were to work with a business and you're talking about a marketing strategy for them, step number 1 is that usually would be, who's your target market? Is that still important today?
Yeah, look, 100%. Target market is crucial. But number two, where do they hang out? Are they a social media client? Are they a Google client? I mean, a lot of people start a website and they just do the website and expect the website to perform. Well, unless you are in the top 3 positions, organic positions in Google, where 70% of the clicks happen, if you're on page 2 of Google, there's no point being there, because the only people that go to page 2 are going to be those who are unemployed, and they're not spending money with you anyway. Those that are bored. Most people will have time challenges. First 3, they're the most trusted sources. Bang. It's actually making sure that whatever you do with your marketing, wherever your customers are, you've got to be visible to them.
Okay, so let's say, they've got their, marketing down pat, and you've helped them, create a marketing plan and a strategy around that. What's next?
Executing the damn thing. See, a lot of people, they love making a plan, and then they don't execute it, and then 6 months later, well, that plan didn't work, let's make another plan. I've seen that as one of the biggest mistakes. Those people that perpetually plan all the time, plan. No, do your little plan and then spend all your time executing, refining, making it better. Time should be spent in execution until you've completed that, and then you replan.
So how many people do create a plan, would you say, percent-wise, and then don't execute?
I'd say about 80%.
Wow.
People love coming up with an idea. That idea doesn't work. Let's plan a new idea. Let's do that. Nope, that doesn't work. Let's do that again.
And so you kind of bring up a good point there. Accountability. Why is that important to have someone that's holding you accountable to execute?
Well, you think about it. You work in a corporate. You always have a boss. They always have a boss. Although the environment can be somewhat toxic, it does force performance. You've got no choice. There is a consequence if you do not deliver for everybody in the organization. As soon as you become a business owner, there is no clear consequence apart from bankruptcy. So people do fall into a comfort zone where they don't necessarily push themselves. They never get to the level, they never reach their full potential. The business never reaches its full potential. And for those that sort of hire team members and have employees, their employees end up working in a business that could be far more. They could have far more working for that company if only it progressed. So yeah, for an entrepreneur, it's always good to have someone pushing them. So why you have athletes? I mean, you think about athletes. They are elite performers. Why is it that they still have coaches operating in their corner? And a lot of the time, it's not going to be for technical aspect of what they do, because they already know what they're doing. But it's more for that emotional support, just to get them pushed. Days they don't want to get out of bed. Days they don't want to train. They've got that person behind them saying, no, today we're going to do it. And I think that's really crucial, because we don't always want to go to the gym. We don't always want to do the stuff. I mean, I'm no different. I mean, I've got coaches coaching me. And I know there's times when I would rather take it easy, take my foot off the gas. I'm a little bit tired, but it's always having that sort of person pushing you, which I think is critical. And we are, at the end of the day, only human.
So having somebody to push you when you don't want to do the work, what's a way that you, and maybe I don't know if push is the right word, but what's a way that you hold your clients accountable?
We set up
apart
weekly
from
tasks.
a text message with capital letters.
Well, there are plenty of them. It's looking at what's needed to move them forward. So very often it's structuring, making sure that there's a clear pathway of stuff that needs to be done, making sure that actually when we do meet, that the stuff that they've committed to actually happens. That's really critical. You know what? Sometimes it's calling them out on their own bullshit, because a lot of people will tell them what they want to hear. Whereas sometimes as a coach, you need to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Even if that does mean that you potentially lose the client. Because at the end of the day, you've got to be honest with them. Someone has to be. And especially the more successful the entrepreneur, the more people kiss their ass. It really is quite painful to watch from a distance.
Have you got an example of that, Peter?
Well, I've heard a few where actually the exec team of a client, it was like, have you ever seen the film Coming to America?
Yes.
Yeah, I like whatever you like. I will go wherever you go. It was just the most awful board meeting on the planet. It was like, you're never going to get anywhere with this. You need someone actually that's going to tell you, no, that is stupid, because not everything you come up with is good. So it's actually getting a board to be a board, totally objective, making sure that they can have conversations in a safe environment that is for the betterment of the company, even if it means that you have to address some of the brutal facts, which is the whole Jim Collins concept, and give people hard truths. As long as it comes from the right place and not a malicious place, hard truths are so powerful.
And you've earned the trust to do that. So you mentioned boards. Is there a certain level of profitability or revenue or size that you recommend that a business get a board? And what is a board, so for those listening?
I mean, look, boards can mean many things. Typically, a board would be a group of advisors. I mean, it could be a non-exec group. It could be a board itself. That you don't necessarily need those people in your business full time, but they bring skills to the party that are missing within the business, whether it's skills or experience. Now, I think that any size business, I mean, you could have a business turnover 100,000 and actually coach would probably be, or an accountant may be the first member on your board. Is that person that's giving you that third party assistance, so to speak. And then as you scale up, you look out for where you got the gaps, and that's when you bring other board members on board. Very often people will bring in board members for their contact book. We need to get into this marketplace. Let's bring this person onto the board because they're very strong in that region and they can open up the doors for us. I think board members have so many different functions.
And for business owners listening, they want to start thinking about creating a board for their business. Do they have to give away equity? Is that a paid position?
I think it depends. I mean, I will always say to you, do not give away equity. The smaller the business, the more tempting it is to give away equity. Yeah, I don't like that idea. Once you've given that away, then it's gone. And where you can avoid it, just bring people on board that want to be part of your journey. Maybe give them part of the profit share. I mean, there's so many schemes out there. I mean, what I would do is I would go to ChatGPT, type in what your business is all about, the size of your business, where you want to go. You're thinking about bringing on a board member. What different schemes could you offer them to make it worth their while, and see what ChatGPT comes up with? It's becoming so smart now. Things like that, it can give you a really, really good answer.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the answer it gives you, just ask it to do it again.
Yeah. Given that you've just mentioned AI, you do have to use it effectively. You have to know the right questions to ask. And most of us don't, right? So that is the benefit of a coach, and it's something you're not actually ever going to achieve out of AI. But what are some of the ways that you're seeing businesses use AI today?
We're seeing companies use it to do a lot of the automation, a lot of the heavy lifting. So what you're finding is the key people in the business are able to be more productive because AI is doing a lot of the basic mundane stuff that they would have had to do. So it's probably getting rid of a lot of the lower level jobs where you're just getting people to do stuff because you don't want your more experienced people doing it, when really there is technology out there now to do it for you. So it's actually starting to drive back up the bottom line in businesses' profitability, which in many regions has been lacking for a very long time, especially when you think we've had high inflation, we've had sort of market recessions and stuff like that. It's helping companies become more profitable.
How would it help companies with the execution, which is a big gap that you mentioned earlier?
Create checklists, create SOPs, loads of different ways. You can you've got tools out there now that can sort of do the check-in. Your CRM now has intelligent functions to it. You've got you've got email automation. There's so many different areas. And every single day there is a new tool popping up to solve a new problem or an old problem. So every day there's new and new tools. I think the biggest thing that businesses are struggling with actually is keeping up with the rate of innovation. And within my business, all my team members, I've got a very strict policy in place that you have 2 hours a week to go and research AI. Go and look at the tools and everything. One of my favorite websites is Future Tools. And you get to see, IO, and it starts to show you what's coming up, what's out there. So you start to really see what the future is looking like, what is being so innovated out there. And more importantly, how can it plug into your business and help you? And a lot of people have that predisposition that, well, my software was crap 2 years ago. It can't do what I want it to do. But you're wrong. In 2 years, there's been a lot of innovation within that business, and you'll be surprised what they're bringing out. If anything, I think you should be doing 6 monthly catch-ups with your software providers and actually understand, especially if you've got let's say, an account manager looking after you, they should be walking through with you the latest features every 6 months, because they're also missing out on a trick on what they can sell to you and what you can utilize.
I love that you get your team to spend 2 hours a week on looking at new innovative programs that are going to help drive efficiency for them. And do they report back to you on or share with the team?
Yeah, we discuss it. We're weekly huddles and stuff. We'll talk about things that we found. We'll give it a try. Not every idea is a great idea, so we'll ditch them. But I don't want to run an organization where I'm continually adding people. I want to grow an organization where I'm adding great people and we're scaling through efficiency and innovation. Because the world's changing and it's not going back. A lot of people have been waiting. Well, we're going to wait for the world to go back. Go back to what? It's never happening. The horse has bolted. Nothing's ever going to return to what it once was.
I don't know. Flares are back, Peter. I don't know if you've seen that meme, mate.
Yeah, that is never ever happening again. That was a terrible era. Let other people enjoy that era. Ain't going to be me.
You know, it's similar what you just said, though, to that content fatigue of listening to too many things, or it's the same with AI. You know I'm guilty of that, of just you sign up to something and you try it and you use it once and then that subscription just keeps ticking over and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't used this thing in 6 months. Or
So I'll share something with you. So one of my other favorite websites is AppSumo, and AppSumo's for companies that are starting out with a product. They're launching a product and they need people to buy so that they can continuously develop an idea. So I've done that with a number of things where I bought in exchange for what I've bought, you get a lifetime license. Now, sometimes these products suck and never go anywhere, but there have been a number of them where I've had lifetime licenses. They've gone on to be highly successful businesses. And now I'm saving on one of them. I'm saving 12,000 USD a year on the package I'm on. So that's another thing you can go play with. And that stops you having the monthly subscription. But it's a gamble.
Yeah, well, it is. And you got to, obviously the time to kind of test them. So in exchange for that, you're obviously saving fees. Do they, I guess that helps that business as well because they're getting users quicker to MVP, testimonials, reviews.
All of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really clever. Amazing. So I want to come back to one thing that technology doesn't give us, and that's kind of the mindset piece, the perseverance, the resilience that you mentioned earlier. When you've worked with business owners and, I think technology should be an enabler to help your business with systems and help you scale. But how much should the business owner be part of the business and impact the business? Like, at what point does it tip over where it starts to have a life of its own?
When you've hired great enough people that can actually take over. I think it goes back to how good your team is. If you put the right people in place, you train the right people and you get them to the right level, of course they can do the job. If you semi-train them, they're not at the level, then all you're going to do is you're going to leave them to fail, which is what a lot of business people do. Okay, you can run it now. He's done what? And it hasn't been uncommon over the years, whereas the business owners transitioned out, I've now sort of been coaching the person that's been transitioned in to help keep their development on track so that business doesn't go backwards.
Yeah. So must be a big part of the coaching process is developing the team.
As the business gets to a certain size, 100%. It's all about developing the people so that the people can step up. That's probably my most hated term. Oh, they've got to step up. Okay, fine. And how do you plan to have them step up? They're not just going to wake up one day and step up. You need to have pathway of development so that they can gradually go up the stairs. It isn't a sort of on and off switch.
Yeah. How real is it, the fear for business owners that, well, if I just invest more time in my team, they're going to then leave and I got to start all over again?
Yeah, it's a big fear. And to be honest with you, it does happen. I always say, it's one thing I love with Richard Branson, and I was fortunate enough to spend a week with him on Necker. And he says, he'll train them so they're good enough to leave, but treat them well enough that they want to stay. When I watched how he was with his people, he had a genuine love for his people. He would sit down with them, play chess with them, and things like that. So he had a genuine relationship. And when Necker got hit by those awful storms and had to close down, a lot of people subsequently left, started their own businesses, and Richard is still in touch with them because he's genuinely invested in his people. It's so great to see.
Yes, great leader to model.
He's an authentic human being.
Yeah. So, you know, for business owners and leaders that are kind of at that level, you know, that you can often fall into that trap of feeling like I can't be authentic, or I can't really share what is authentic, you know, like, is that if you feel emotional, do you share what's on your mind? What's authenticity to you?
I think you've got to look at what are the blocks to authenticity. One of the things that I do recommend to all the clients I work with is actually they go and see basically a psychotherapist. If you think about it, a lot of people go to the gym, they spend their time on their body. They go and spend their time getting themselves a chef or something. Oh, let's look at my the meals, what I put into my body. But the biggest organ in the body that goes under the most stress is the brain. And I think that unless you understand yourself, understand what's trigger you, what causes you to behave the way you behave, deal with past baggage, unless you do that, you can never be that leader that's going to be 100% complete, because you're going to always have behaviors that can potentially be toxic, and you won't even realize you're doing that.
What's an example of that?
Stress at work. I mean, a lot of people have clients where as their kids become teenagers, they have them go off the rails because the teenagers finding their own pathway. They don't know how to deal with that. It's an inordinate amount of stress that plays out at work. You may be in a relationship with a significant other that really isn't working out. And actually, people do need help with that stuff. You can't just compartmentalize it and say, yeah, it's done. Most people need to understand, process, work through it and understand. So many business owners I've come across have mummy or daddy issues or teacher issues. That's holding them back. Unless they deal with that and actually deal with that trauma, because that's exactly what it is. Bad shit that happens in life equals a trauma. If you break your leg, it's a trauma. If you break your arm, it's a trauma. But actually, if you get bullied at school, what's the difference? Still a trauma. If your teacher tells you you're thick, you're stupid, still a trauma. And that needs to be dealt with. That needs to heal so that you can become a better leader. And more importantly, so that you can see it in the others and get them the right help so that they can perform at a better level.
It's amazing how much you do carry things with you. You don't even realize until you start to dig.
Every human being carries. And that's the thing. You think about it. If you're a medical professional, let's say you're a psychotherapist, every month you need to see a professional to make sure that you're under supervision. Because what you're doing is you're taking on a lot of the stress that your clients bring to you. You need somewhere to offload. Now, as a business owner, they pick up stress from work and everything. And then where do they go and offload? They offload on their partner. And then they're confused why the partner doesn't want to be with them and they separate. No one should be anybody else's punching bag. That's why I'm a big advocate of a sort of like a psychotherapist, psychologist, because then you've got someone that you can just offload. And it's their job to listen and ask a few questions. Simple.
Love it. And it kind of it was used to be a little bit taboo, you know, back in the day. It's not now. I think it's, you know, very well accepted and encouraged that people have someone to talk to. So I think that's great advice.
I mean, you look at it. Right now, we have more people on antidepressants than we've ever had. They do not need damn pills. They need to work through their crap and build up resilience. See, this thing about, you're probably going to get me onto a woke culture, but this thing that everyone is equal, life's going to be fair. Life will never be fair. Look at what's happened to you. You had cyclones totally smashed up your beaches, probably going to hurt your economy a bit. You've got to have the resilience to pick yourself up and deal with it. We've done no favors. There's a generation wrapped in cotton wool that's ill-equipped to deal with what's coming. They need help. The same with business owners. Don't think that you're going to be a millionaire in 5 years. There'll be the occasional person that is. For 99.9% of the people, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, great advice, Peter. Thank you. So much goodness in that last part. Okay, 3 questions for you. Favorite book and why?
Probably Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I did like Outwitting the Devil as well, but the hidden meaning within Think and Grow Rich is as you think, so shall you become. And a lot of people just think so badly. And because they have that bad way of thinking, they just are managed. I call them shit magnets, basically. They manage to attract all the bad everywhere. I mean, yeah, you can see them. They're like the mood hoovers. They're like the little, I mean, I don't know if you like Harry Potter, but they're like the little dementors. They suck the life out of you. I do believe you put out what you you get out what you put in. And I do think that as you think is so important. As you start your day is so important. So that's one book. What's your next question?
Favorite mentor or coach for you throughout your career?
I don't think I've had a favourite. I think I've had different people at different stages. So, I mean, when I first joined Actioncoach, Ray Moore was there for me. He was a great mentor. I've had Keith Cup in the past. I've had many different ones. I think the right mentor, it's important to find the right mentor for the right stage you're at. So any given time now, I have 5 coaches, 5 mentors working with me, but they work with me on different areas. So I've had one with me that's worked with me on my fitness for the last 15 years, which I think is absolutely important. It's not even so much for me having a six pack, but for me to have the mobility and strength so I can keep up working the hours I work.
Yeah.
So I've had so many. I think it's just the right person at the right time.
Yeah. And best piece of advice you ever received?
What's the best piece of? Stay away from dickheads, which I didn't understand at the time. But there are so many people out there that will not want to see other people succeed because that's not the journey they're going on. You've got to surround yourself with the right people. Your support network is one of your most important networks out there.
Great way to wrap up. Peter Boolkah, thank you very much for the learnings today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Michelle Adams, your host here. Hats off to you for committing to your learning by listening to this podcast. And if you'd like some help implementing some of these strategies, then click the link in the description to find your local action coach. They can help you put these strategies into action and take your business and your life to the next level. In the meantime, like and subscribe so that you're the first to get our next episode. We'll see you soon.